Hey there guys, so in today's video we're going to be talking about Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Now I did play Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. It was a really enjoyable game for me. I really liked the character of Cal Kestis, really liked where the story was going, and 100% of that game I think in like a week or two because I really enjoyed it. So I've actually been sitting on this game for over a year. Alex actually bought this as a birthday present for me back in 2023. Obviously we're in 2024 now, and I'm obviously now only making a video on it now because I only played it like a month and a bit ago. So I was genuinely just really late to playing it. It's been sat in the disc, in the case, for over a year, still in the wrap. In fact, I took so long to get to it that by the time I did, the game was on Game Pass. So I had a disc, and the game had actually released on Game Pass anyway. I still use the disc because that was the gift that I was bought, so I wanted to still use it as intended. I've still got it in my house as well, because disc games I just tend to keep on my shelf. So you may have seen the thumbnail, and you may be thinking, why has he put that this game was underbaked? Just FYI, when I say underbaked, at no point do I mean that the game was bad or that it was terrible or anything like that. There are just some things that kind of spoiled it. So what I'll do is I'm going to talk about the story. Again, as I normally do, not super in depth, just kind of a general summary and kind of how I felt about it. We'll then sum up the gameplay, kind of the world, or worlds, because there's planets, obviously. Kind of the activities slash side stuff slash stuff to do, whatever you want to call it. And then the achievements and kind of the, music a little bit as well. So, story-wise, okay. Starts a little bit after Jedi Fallen Order. We're on Coruscant. Cal is very grizzled at this point. He's got, his beard. He's got a couple of scars on his face. He's not the same Padawan that we left him in Jedi Fallen Order. He's not a kid anymore. He's kind of a young adult at this point. He's not a child, and he's kind of coming to grips or come to terms with, really, that the galaxy hates his kind, and that he basically every day is a fight for survival. Literally every day is him keeping an eye out for the Empire and trying to keep on his toes and not get arrested or killed or something. And there's a complete new band of characters that die in the first hour, and I'm supposed to care about them, and I don't, because I don't know any of them. I hate when games do this, because Cal is clearly very upset that these people have died, and he's very like, oh no, and very angry, and I'm kind of over here like, who are you? What is your name? And where have you come from? I hate when games do this. This is one of the things I said about Dishonored that really weakens the story. You can't expect your player to care that much about a character that they don't know. If that was Grease, or Seer, or anyone else from the first game, I'd probably be in tears. But it's not. It's some random chick that I've never seen before in my life, and I've only seen for 20 minutes, and now she's dead, and Cal's really annoyed about it, and you expect me to feel some sort of emotion about it. Don't do this. This doesn't work, because I don't know her. Cal might have known her for like 2 years or something, and that's great. He's upset. I'm not. I don't relate. So, not a good start. Bunch of new characters, don't know who any of them are, and the only one to survive is Bode Akuna. I love Bode's character. He's a really cool dude, really chill, got his jetpack, got his blasters. That's really cool. However, for the entire game, from the minute I meet him to the end of the game, I don't trust him. I don't trust Bode at all. The entire game, I'm telling myself, there's something about this guy, I really don't trust him. He's not a part of the OG crew. I just don't, he's a really cool guy, and he seems really nice, but I just don't trust him. Until he gives me a reason to trust him, I don't. And I didn't. I didn't trust Bode at all of the entire game. So, it turns out that the original crew has disbanded. Miss Junda is doing her own thing on Jeddah. Grease has a pub, and Merrin is doing her own thing and was traveling the galaxy. And I was just kind of like, what? When did this happen? And it was kind of upsetting because obviously, having the crew all on the Mantis was really great. That was the whole point of the story, really, of the first game, that they were essentially Cal's family. And to open up the second game, the sequel, with, yep, everyone fucked off, basically. And I'm supposed to be okay with that. Now, obviously, we band them back together. You know, Grease gets on board. Board is obviously part of the crew. We meet Merrin again on Jeddah, as well as Sia. And it's really nice. It's a really nice reunion. Honestly, it was one of my favourite moments. Just Grease is so excited to see her, and Cal is as well. And it's really nice that they get back together. Now, it does suck a little bit because Grease comes with, obviously it's his ship. Merrin comes with, but Sia decides to stay on Jeddah. She's got her own things taken care of. They're, restoring the Jedi archives, so she's got her own mission to focus on. Cal, on the other hand, is looking for a place called Tanalorr. Now, this is by pure coincidence, and this is where another one of the issues I have with this story comes in. Basically, Cal is on the run from the Empire in the game. He goes to Kobo, which is where Grease has set up his pub. And then, by sheer coincidence, there's something in the void or whatever called Tanalorr. It's a planet that basically isn't in their universe, but also is, but you have to travel through some kind of thing to get to it, so it doesn't actually appear. I can't remember exactly, it's a little bit confusing. Long story short, it's a coincidence that he hears about it. It's an even bigger coincidence that it actually turns out to be a thing. And then that becomes the entire main focus of the entire plot. Basically, there's an invisible planet that we can use to hide from the Empire. This is genius. We should do it. And that is logical, and I get it, but I don't agree with the fact that this is all by sheer coincidence. Like, your entire story is just based off the accidental fact that this place, first of all, is discovered by Cal, second of all, that it actually turns out to be real, and then third of all, is enough for him and everyone else to put all their resources towards finding it. It weakens it for me, like, personally. You might disagree, you might say some stuff about, oh, the Force guided him to it, or whatever. Maybe it did, I don't know, it's never stated. But, for me, basing the entire story off of just pure coincidence and then running with it is not kind of great. It feels a bit shit. Like, I really thought in this game we were going to be, like, taking the fight to the Empire, and, like, on some occasions we kind of do, but I thought that was going to be, like, the main plot of the story, and it just wasn't, and I just didn't like that. I just didn't like that it was coincidence. But whatever, we're rolling with it, so that's what we're going with. Not my game, so whatever. So we're going with that. Tanalorr's the main objective. Got to find this spooky planet that just doesn't appear, and we're going to use that to hide from the Empire and live our lives out peacefully and quietly. Cool, great. So, we get the band back together, we do some shenanigans, we go between Kobo and Jeddah and Kobo and the Shattered Moon on Kobo, which I'm not even going to bother explaining because I really can't be bothered, and honestly, not a lot really happens there. Long story short, Cal basically just does it bit by bit. Grease and the others don't do a whole lot, they're just kind of there. Now, one of the interesting things is that Cal runs into a high-era Republic Jedi in a stasis chamber, in a Bacta tank, and somehow this geezer's not dead. Presumably, I think the Bacta can actually keep you alive. I don't fully know Star Wars lore in depth, so correct me if I'm wrong, but this guy is basically like 10,000 years old, essentially. And Cal releases him because, obviously, he's a High Republic Jedi. You'd be stupid not to trust the guy because he's a High Republic Jedi. This guy's probably got techniques that Cal's never heard of. So, and he releases him. And the guy immediately gets angry because essentially what happened was the Council told him that Tanalorr, which was his big project at the time, was a no-no, and that they were getting attacked, and he had to abandon Tanalorr. And then he was shoved in a Bacta tank by some woman whose name I can't remember. Sue me. So, he turns angry, he bleeds his crystal, his lightsaber turns red, and he decides, I'm going to scrap with Cal. And this is where another issue comes in with the story. You expect me to believe that Cal Kestis, who wasn't even a fully trained Jedi Knight when the Republic fell, could take on a High Republic Jedi and win? No. Absolutely not. I'm sorry. Like, to me, the disbelief is not suspend. I can't suspend that much. Like, Cal's incredibly skilled with a lightsaber, don't get me wrong, but this is a High Republic Jedi we're talking about. We're talking about someone who's got years upon years of experience, both with saber combat and the Force, and you expect me to just bend over and believe that this essentially older teenager, 21-year-old, wherever he is, can take this guy on and win? And he does. And then the guy escapes, because of course he does. No thank you. I don't think so. Now you could argue, oh Zach, he'd been in a Bacta tank for 10,000 years, and honestly, yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, do you know what? Benefit of the doubt. The guy's been in a stasis tank for 10,000 years. His limbs are probably a little bit stiff, probably a little bit rusty on the saber combat, you know. He's also only got one arm. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll allow it this once. And honestly, if that was the end of it, then I would by all means agree with you. The problem then arises when you fight him again later on in the game, and he's fully fledged in his armor, fully fledged with the Force. He's got two hands. He's using the Force as a replacement for his missing arm, and you beat him again. You expect me... You kill him. You expect me to suspend my disbelief that much at that point? No. It doesn't make sense. Okay, maybe by some sheer stretch of will, you could argue that because Bold was there as well and there was a 2v1, that maybe they stood a chance. But I still really struggle to think that that's okay. Like, there are so many issues I have with it that I just can't. And the thing is, Dagon was a really cool character as well, right? Like a really cool Jedi that turned bad. But how? How does Cal win in any of those scenarios? This guy is a High Republic Jedi. He's clearly skilled with the Force because he's literally using it to have an arm when his has been severed, and he's incredibly skilled in saber combat. And you expect me to believe that Cal Kestis, who was still a Padawan when the Republic fell, wins? How? In what world? Like, he does, and that is the story, and you're just expected to think that's fine. But how? I genuinely don't understand how the devs thought that the people were going to believe that that was possible. And there's another thing, right? Now, I don't know Star Wars lore, like, really in depth. I know the films, I know most of the series. There's a few things I haven't watched, but for the most part, I'm pretty versed in watching the things, okay? Now, Palpatine is in charge of the Empire at this point. He's taken over the galaxy, essentially. And he doesn't miss a lot of things. You know, he notices quite a bit, you know? So you'd think that the Emperor, Palpatine, of the Empire, would notice that there was a fucking 10,000-year-old High Republic fucking Jedi just running around doing his own thing. Also, you can't even argue that he wouldn't notice, because at one point, Dagon literally gets in a scrap with the Empire. So at no point at all in this game does Palpatine kind of go, interesting, there's a Jedi from the High Republic here. This is going to be a problem. Just doesn't care. Game does not even acknowledge that, does not give a fuck. That is a major problem. Like, I'm sorry, but, like, I don't care about Cal winning the fight against Dagon. How has Palpatine not noticed that there's a High Republic Jedi running around causing havoc against his stormtroopers? How has he not noticed? Like, you could argue, yeah, Zach, Corbo's a outback system, whatever the fuck they call them, and he's not interested, blah, blah, blah. But he is interested because they've got a facility above the planet specifically trying to do things with Tanalor and doing with the beam energy there. So you can't tell me that the Empire isn't interested in the planet, because they're literally there with an Imperial Star Destroyer above it halfway through the game. And you expect me to believe that Palpatine just doesn't notice there's a Jedi running around. Like, they're pretty quick to realise Cal's there, but he doesn't give a shit about a High Republic Jedi? What? Yeah. So Dagon just presents so, like, don't get me wrong, he's a really cool character, and he's done really, really well, and I really, really like him, and he's a really good villain, right? He's great. But he creates so many issues, both in the story and just in Star Wars, like, lore in general. Main two being Palpatine not noticing his existence, but somehow they notice that Cal's there. Doesn't make sense. You could argue that because Cal's on the run and he's wanted, yeah, whatever. I know there's going to be people that are going to argue it, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. As long as you're respectful in the comments, then by all means I'll discuss it with you. I love it. You know, I love having conversations with people. For me, it's an issue. But secondly, just Cal being able to best this Jedi, not once but twice, and kill him successfully, even though this guy is a High Republic Jedi, which is going to be super skilled, super good with the Force, super good in saber combat, and like Cal wasn't even a Jedi Knight when the Republic fell. So how am I supposed to just believe that he can win that? He wouldn't beat Darth Vader, would he? But he can beat this guy. What? And again, you know, Darth Vader's the chosen one, so he's the strongest guy in the universe because of the Force. Fine, fair enough. You know, I'm not going to argue the point with people. There are going to be people that disagree with me, and they're going to give me a list of reasons as to why I'm wrong. And there are reasons that you can use to poke a hole in my argument. I'm fully aware, because I've already listed some of them myself in this video. But at the same time, you can see where I'm coming from. At least I hope some of you can. Maybe it's just me, and if it is, then tell me, and maybe I'm just being dumb. Anyway, we're at 16 minutes already, and I've been stuck on this point for way too long. Long story short, moving very quickly forward, Cal eventually finds Tanalor, happy ever after, except the board betrays you because he's a dick, and I knew I couldn't trust him, and he has a daughter, and he tries to make you feel bad by being like, you can't kill me, I have a kid. You kill him because he's an idiot, and even his kid is like, Dad, please, just listen to the nice Jedi man and just stop being a dick. And he doesn't, and you put him down. So essentially, Cal and Merrin now have a makeshift family, because they are together, and they've now got a kid that someone has to look after. Before I move on from the story, there's one last thing I'd like to mention. One of my favourite things in this game is that we finally get to see Merrin and Cal get together properly. There was obviously something going on between them in the first game. This game confirms it. She kisses him. He even says to her, you know, I do want this. And she's like, are you sure though? Because of, you know, your rules and your conduct. Because obviously Jedi can't have relationships. And Cal essentially says, you know, the Order isn't a thing anymore. You know, it doesn't exist. This is a different galaxy we live in now. So I don't see what the problem is. Now, I generally thought that Merrin was going to die at some point in the story, and they were going to use that to manipulate Cal's emotions, and maybe the third game will kill her off. I really hope it doesn't, because I really think Cal deserves some form of happy ending. However, Sia was not so lucky. Very cool combat section with her, where you get to actually play as her and her Force and her saber. Except she decides to 1v1 Darth Vader. And, well, she obviously wasn't going to win. A, because Anakin Skywalker was the chosen one, and B, because he can't die, because plot. Wouldn't make sense. So she got absolutely fucking thrashed, basically. Like, she does her best, but she nearly kills him, but not really, because he just literally moves her saber to the side and just kills her. That was sad. You know, watching Cal go back and find her and Grease and having to explain. You know, I didn't cry, but I was close. Like, it was really, really upsetting. So that part of the story was, you know, it was good, but not in the way that I'm like, oh yay, woo, but like good as in, you know, ow, my feels. You've done this to me. How dare you? But yeah, that was heartbreaking. And then obviously Merrin and Cal then their relationship developing. That was really nice to see. I hope that continues into the third game as well. But that's enough about the story. I know that was really brief, and I got stuck on that one point for way too long, so I'm going to move very quickly into the actual game itself. So, gameplay. Saber combat, pretty decent. You got a couple of stances to pick from, such as the first games. You've got single, dual, I guess two kinds of duel. You've got duel where there's two sabers, and you've got, you know, double-ended, which is obviously the one saber. You also got two other ones. You've got cross guard, which is basically like kind of like a heavy knight stance. You've also got then blaster and saber. Now, you can only have two stances at once, which is dumb, because I don't get that. You can essentially only have two stances to pick from at any one time. If you want to change them, you have to go to a meditation point. I disagree with that. You should be able to swap with them on the fly. I think that was a really dumb decision, but whatever, that's just me. The blaster and saber stance I literally used for its achievements, and then I never touched it again. It's my least favourite stance in the game. Crossguard I really, really wanted to like, because it looks really, really cool. but it's just too slow. It's just way too slow. The wind-up on the attacks is ridiculously long. It's just not worth using. So I just literally defaulted to, I believe, double-bladed and a mix of dual-wield / single, and that's all I used for the entire game, and that was enough. Cal's obviously got his slow down ability, which is pretty handy, and then at the end of the game, then you get it with him using the dark side, so he actually does more damage and like kicks the shit into enemies. Pretty cool, very handy for bosses if you've got some left in the map, so very, very handy. Honestly, saber combat's pretty decent. The only downside really is that when the game's got a lot of enemies on screen at once, it can be kind of bullshit trying to keep track of things and actually trying to do combat like properly, because there's just too much going on. You'll have grenades being thrown at you, blaster bolts being fired at you, melee being hit at you. It's just, the game can't, like, you can't do things quick enough with the animations and things. You can't build up combos properly for like attacks because you're constantly getting interrupted, and it gets really frustrating. Maybe that's just me. It just feels like it's too many enemies at once, and that the combat isn't built for that much, like for the fluidity needed for that many enemies. Take the Arkham series, for example. You could have like 20 enemies on screen at one time fighting you, but because of the free flow system, it works. Jedi Survivor doesn't do it as well, so sometimes it can feel a little bit annoying or frustrating. But overall, the gameplay and the combat is pretty good. Exploring is really good as well. You know, got a couple of collectibles and things like that. So obviously you've got, you know, upgrades for your little droid buddy, and then obviously you've also got the stims. Doesn't really feel necessary because you get quite a lot of them. You also get plant seed pod things. You don't need to get all of these for an achievement. You only need to get a certain amount to fill the garden, but nice touch nonetheless. You've obviously got then legendary bosses / creatures, fun enough to fight. You know, something to do. What else was there? Obviously there's your bog standard collectibles like the crates. You don't need to get all of these this time for achievements, thankfully, because there are quite a few of them. And there are like little stone collectibles as well, which is priorite shards. You need to get all of these to get into Doma's shop and buy all her things for an achievement. But overall, there's a decent amount of stuff to do. There's also a new thing called rumours, which are kind of like side quests where you talk to people in the tavern, bar, saloon thing, and they'll be like, there's this thing in this area, do it. And it'll mark like a big green circle on your map for you to go and do the thing. Nice little touch, something to do, kind of like this game's version of side quests, which I'm fine with. It's something to do. So that's fine as well. Side stuff's pretty good. The planets are pretty good. We got Corbo and Jeddah, which are kind of the bigger two. Corbo especially is the biggest by far in the game. Shattered Moon is a lot smaller. There's also then Coruscant, which is quite small as well. So, you know, small area. It's not like the whole planet, obviously. And then there's Nova Garan as well, which is an Imperial base, which is not massive either, which is fine, because Corbo and Jeddah, Corbo again especially, is massive. So you've got, you know, you don't have a massive selection, but there's enough to go around. There's enough stuff to do and enough places to explore that you don't need more planets, I don't think. So, you've also got the music. Music is fine. It's got that kind of Star Wars feel to it. Not something I'd probably listen to on my playlist, but it's there. It's good enough. It gets the job done. I'm not a composer, so I don't really know what to say about it. Just that it is good. It's just not something I would listen to outside of the game itself. Now, only two other things I really want to talk about. So there's the achievements, and then there's what I'm going to talk about now. So, obviously, I've mentioned a couple of issues that I do have with the story. Overall, it was okay. Didn't enjoy it as much as the first game, but it wasn't terrible either. Just a couple of plot points I didn't agree with. Combat's pretty decent. I've already mentioned the few issues I have with that, and the open world is pretty decent as well. Where the game, for me, becomes kind of underbaked is that, and on Corvo especially, I encountered a lot, and I mean a ridiculous amount of frame drop bugs. And I was playing on performance mode as well. So, you know, I wasn't playing on, like, you know, the highest quality settings and everything. I was playing on the mode that would make it run smoother and make it run better with lower resolution, and things like that. Honestly, the amount of frame drops and massive chunks of lag I'd get were really frustrating. Like, they really spoiled it. And then, to top it off, there were, I think, 2 instances, one of which was far more annoying than the other, where my game just died. My game just crashed. And if you've played this game, you know that it doesn't save unless you go to a meditation point. And I'd been doing open world side things. I lost about 30 to 40 minutes of progress and work done, and I came back and I had to redo all of it. And this happened twice. So that really pissed me off that was even a thing that could happen. The only other bug I had was there was at one point where I was in Jeddah, and by some mystery, I don't know how I did this, I got stuck outside of the map and I couldn't get back in, and killing myself didn't work because I kept spawning outside of the boundary, so I couldn't get in. So I had to basically traipse around the entire border of the map until I eventually managed to get back in, because if I didn't, I would have had to have quit and I would have lost like 25 minutes of work again. So when I say underbaked, the story's decent, the gameplay's decent, the open world is decent. This game is underbaked because there are a few issues with it that really spoil the experience. The frame drops are really annoying, the huge chunks of lag, especially in the middle of combat, really ruin it. But then just having the game genuinely just crash for no reason and lose a chunk of progress. Like, if they knew that was an issue, the least they could have done would have been to put in an autosave every couple of minutes to make sure you didn't lose things. But they didn't. So, like, losing the progress once, okay, bit frustrating, but we'll do it again. Losing it twice and nearly a third time as well is not acceptable. Like, I don't expect to have to replay massive chunks of a game just because it doesn't work properly and crashes for no reason. Now, you know, for some people maybe it's not the end of the world. For me, it did spoil it a bit because I was having to replay things I'd already just done 20 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever before. So that for me makes Jedi Survivor underbaked, because I feel like if it was a couple of months extra on development, it wouldn't have those issues. And you can't even argue with me and say, oh, well, you played it at launch, because I didn't. I've played it a year later, so it's had plenty of time to be fixed, and it still isn't. And I already know there are a bunch of issues at launch as well, so that's why I didn't play it straight away. Which is why I'm not bringing them up in this video, because I didn't experience them, therefore it's not a valid criticism for me to make. But I experienced these ones, and I don't expect those to be in a game that has cost like 70 quid. I know it was a gift to me, and I didn't pay for it, and it's on Game Pass now, and that's great, but still shouldn't be a thing, shouldn't be this many issues with it. So that's everything about the game. The only other thing I want to touch on briefly is the achievements. Honestly, not a lot to say here. Get your bog standard, do this story thing, do this story thing. I've got some combat ones where you've got to do kind of specific things with different stances. Not too bad, especially because you can refund the skill points. Obviously got the collectible ones, got to do all those. Honestly, there's nothing here that's really going to cause you that much issue. The grindest is probably the priorite shards, just because there are 100 of them. But thankfully they're only on, I believe, 2 of the 4, 5 planets. No, they're on 3, because they're in Nova Garen as well, I believe. So they're on a couple of them, but they're not in every planet, and also you can get an upgrade at some point if you find it, or you Google it, that shows you where they are anyway, or shows you where treasures are. So that makes it a lot easier to kind of clean them up. So overall, the achievement difficulty for the game, I would say, is probably like, I don't know, like a 4. There's no, like, story-related difficulty achievements, so you don't have to play the game on like Grandmaster or anything. I played on like Padawan, I think, because I just wanted to chill and not have to like try super hard. I just wanted to enjoy the story and the world, and I did. Other than obviously the frame drops and the crashing of my game, losing 40 minutes of progress. But overall, achievement difficulty probably like 3. If anything, it's going to be the time that gets you more. It took me about a week and a half to 2 weeks to kind of fully do the game. Obviously, that's not like the full time I spent. I'm just talking like in real life. Actual hours on the game, I think I don't even have 24 hours. I think I've got 23, like dead on 23, I think. So it doesn't take super long. If I'm remembering that right. I might not be, but I think I am. It doesn't take super long. You can kind of smash it all out. Some cool things to note, I guess, like there's New Game Plus, if you really want to do that, so you can play it again. I personally didn't, just simply because I did everything in my first run, and also because there's no achievement for it, so it doesn't really interest me. If there had been, then by all means I would have definitely done it, obviously. But overall, Jedi Survivor is a decent game. It's just those few issues I mentioned with like the frame rate drops and the lag spikes and especially the crashing really kind of spoil it. Like, and the game is really good. Like, the game looks incredible. The graphics are some of the best I've ever seen in a game. You know, the story could have been a little bit better, but like other than that, it is genuinely just those kind of technical issues that really kind of bring it down. And it's a shame, especially because, you know, it's not even at launch. We're like a year after launch or something like that, and there's still an issue. Maybe not for everyone, but they were for me. And I obviously understand that everyone's experience with it's going to be different, and you could have never ever had an issue with this game before and be telling me like, oh well, that's your problem, and that would be fine. But I will always, you know, critique what I played. And unfortunately, when I played this game, I had those issues, and that did spoil it for me. But does that mean you shouldn't play Jedi Survivor? No, it is a good sequel. Personally, I don't think it's as good as the first game. There are a few issues that I do have with it, and like as I've said, I'm not going to go over them again. But it is a worthy sequel. You know, it pushes the story forward, albeit not entirely in the way that I thought it was going to. But we're lined up for a trilogy, you know, we're lined up for the final game. Hopefully that is going to be a thing. I'm assuming it is, because it seems like that's what Respawn's doing. And, you know, hopefully the third game will have, you know, maybe a new stance or some new combat moves, and, you know, the story will be really good. And hopefully it wraps up the story nicely. I am kind of hoping that Cal will get a nice ending, but at the same time they could go a complete opposite direction and he could die, like, being a hero or something. You really don't know. At least I don't. But that's my video on Jedi Survivor. Hopefully I haven't offended too many Star Wars fans, because I'm not as into it as a lot of people who played this game would be. Hopefully people that watch this video, you guys do find my criticisms valid. Hopefully you understand my reasoning behind my points. And, you know, if there's something you disagree on and you want to, like, you know, talk about it in the comments, by all means, I'm fine with that. All I ask is that you just please keep it respectful, you know, don't go cursing people or, you know, calling people things or anything like that. You know, we're all here because we love video games. You know, we can discuss video games like adults. We don't have to be children about it. You know, there's no need to start calling people names or slurs or anything like that. So by all means, debate with me in the comments. Maybe there's something I missed, or maybe there are justifications to why the story is the way it is that I didn't think of, and that's fine. I'm quite happy to be humbled in the comments if I'm wrong about something. I would rather be humbled and told that I'm wrong and get corrected than just keep going and thinking that I'm right and that this is the way it is, and in actuality I'm completely wrong. But, you know, I did for the most part enjoy Jedi Survivor. I would say this game is definitely worth picking up if you played the first one and you want to see where the story goes. And that's it really. Hopefully the trilogy is rounded out in a good way if we are getting a third game, which again I assume we would. Hopefully Respawn really just go really hard at it for you know Jedi's, well, whatever it's going to be called, Star Wars Jedi winner. It's not going to be called that, is it? But, you know, something like that. You know, hopefully it's good. Hopefully, you know, it really comes in. They come in swinging. It's like a 10 out of 10. Works flawlessly. The graphics are incredible. The story's 10 out of 10. Gameplay and combat's fucking awesome. You know, all of that stuff. Like, I really want them to, like, end on a high. You know, like how Halo 3 was. I want that for them. So that's it. You know, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like, and if you're new around here, subscribing. I aim to get a video up about every 2 weeks. That's not always possible because I do work full time, and working at a call center does kill you both emotionally and physically, so I don't recommend. But yeah, that's that. Other videos you can expect from me in the future. We've got Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Also got a video I want to do for Space Marine 2. Now, by the time you see this video, Space Marine 2 may either be out or on the very near horizon, and the video that I record for that is probably going to be before the game comes out, because it's going to be me talking about how good it might be or might not be. I may then make a video on Space Marine 2 at a later date in 2025, only because I refuse to get it at launch, just because I'm cautiously optimistic. If it comes out and it's really good, then I will. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe, all the good YouTube stuff, so that I can maybe do this as a full-time job one day, because that's the dream, because I love video games. And yeah, take care of yourself, have a good day / evening / night, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care of yourself, guys, and have a good one.